Hello, 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 hello. It's 8 o'clock. It's Monday night. Guess what? It's time for dialogue with Dozell. Yes, your brother's flying, your boy's flying solo looks like tonight, but we're gonna have a good time. Well, really, I'm not solo because you are with me. It's a hot button Monday. It's a hot button Monday. It's a hot button Monday. We're gonna do this thing together tonight. I got one question to ask. Hey, Dozell, what they do? Hey, all right. Okay, got that out my system. I had to get that out, Madam Producer. That's for Latoya and the crew over at GoGetGetCreations.com. So tonight, it's Hot Button Monday. We got several topics we're going to discuss. But remember, on the hot button format, it's not hot. It's not even a button if you don't participate. So the way you participate tonight is you put your questions, your comments in the chat. Madam Producer, post them on screen, and we're gonna chop it up together and just have a good time with it tonight. So this is how we're gonna kind of start out tonight. We're gonna start out tonight talking about some of the things that's going on in our world. We are just about exactly 30 days from an election, and we're going to um, we're going to deal with that and talk about some of the shenanigans that's going on around the election cycle, and we got just a whole lot of stuff that's going on. This is a mega world. You don't know what that means, and we're gonna just dialogue and dissect all of that stuff. On the other side of the half hour, we're going to kick it into gear with some sports and some culture. That's the stuff by which this dialogue was formed on 2 years ago. That's how long you've been with me. I want to say tonight before we go on, prayers up to the Lumsey family, my dear friend Leroy Lumsey, in the transition of their dad a week or so ago, Leroy Lumsey Sr. Uh, we want to remember him and remember the family and all of those in the Salt Valley area in that loss. So here we are tonight, dialogue with Dozell, 8 o'clock, and we're into the dialogue. The first thing I want to talk about is dog whistles. I wish I had, if I could blow a whistle, I'd blow it right now. We're talking about dog whistles. And that takes us to the playbook of from way back in the day, George Wallace, Bull Connor, and all of them guys. They didn't have to blow dog whistles. They could be very exact on what they wanted to say. But as we moved into an age of political correctness, we kind of got into dog whistles, and the dog whistle thing kind of was synonymous on the chronological timeline with the MAGA crowd, and it became more. The dog whistles were blown, symbolic. We know President Reagan in his election, in his campaign during '79, leading to the '80 election, he went to and had a symbolic dog whistle where he spoke to where one of the fiercest lynchings had taken place in Alabama, and went to that crowd and and used the dog whistle terms of states' rights, wink, wink, the ability to keep people in their place, people of color in their place. Uh, we don't want to be divisive, but we just want to lay this out so that everybody knows what's going on. What occurred over the weekend was Tommy Tuberville, who is the ousted football coach at Auburn University, and where he coached some of America's greatest athletes. Some are in the NFL or went on to the NFL. I think he's post Bo Jackson, but Tommy Tuberville had obviously a mixed football team and somewhat ethnic, but he had a lot of brothers on the football team. Is what I'm trying to say. And he rode the mega coattails into the Senate from Alabama by joining up with the twice impeached, uh, uh, almost indicted president, a former president, and he rode those coattails and became one of the senators from Alabama. And what he has done is the other night he made a statement and he pointed towards Democrats. I'm just hesitant to put stuff on during this season of political correctness with some of our platforms and we're not even doing any graphics because they're, a lot of that stuff is comes under great scrutiny. So we'll just do it as if it was a radio format. But you see us, and we'd like to see if you want to come on. So he got on and he talked about the Democrats not only accepted crime and criminal behavior, they loved it. They liked it. And he went on to say that what they did was they asked for reparations. Now you see what's being said. Who in this community asked for reparations? We've done it on this show. We've explored that whole idea of reparations on this show, and by doing so, he tied in the black community without calling it out per se, and attached them to the Democratic Party. And he said, in essence, that they they lead in criminal behavior. Well, yesterday on Meet the Press on MSNBC, the Republican senator from Nebraska, I don't know his name, he came on, and um, he was asked, was that not a dog whistle that was being blown down in Alabama when he read that, or in Magaland where they were having this MAGA, and his comment was his comment was there's there's some shenanigans going on that's kind of got me smiling right now. His comments was that he's not going to call anybody a racist, but the inference was that if that didn't thread the line, that went over. And I kind of appreciated that gentleman. He didn't want to break ranks with this party per se, uh, so he didn't exactly throw Tuberville under the bus. But he made comments like, certainly I wouldn't do that, and certainly that gets close to the line, and those kinds of the essence of those kind of statements. So I just want to ask our crowd here in Dozell Land tonight, our audience, our viewers, I want to ask you all, what do you think of this? Have we come to a point of no return? Have we pushed the limit? Did the button get pushed so far uh, back in 2015, 2016, and throughout until we finally got some civility in place? Did we just come too close to that line uh, with dog whistles or trumpets being blown, and in a quest to get a block of voters, did we cross the line? Did we cross moral lines? Did we cross ethical lines? Did we set our nation back? I'm not talking about did we set us back for the democratic process, for democracy, but did we set our nation back for relations, people getting along, working together, making strides in divisions where differences of people and different kinds of people. Did we lose all? Did we lose the gains that we had made? Did we retard that progress? Did we turn the hands of the clock back? Those are the questions that I'm asking now. Um, so what we saw this weekend, was that a dog whistle or was that a trumpet being blown? And where do we go from here? That's the question I'm asking. Where do we go from here? Does this behavior keep on for political gain? For I don't know. That's the only gain. Hopefully, I can see. I hope we're not hearing people talk about economic gain and trying to use people again for their own personal economic gains. You know what I'm talking about. That'll never happen. Um, have we just gone too far? Has political power, which we know equates to economic power, all you got to do is look from Mitch McConnell on down, and of course that, in all honesty, that does not go along one party line. That that when people go to the Congress or the legislature, they become rich. Mitch McConnell is now worth millions and millions, hundreds of millions of dollars. Um, since becoming a congressman and a senator from Kentucky, and that's kind of the trend. Very few people come back broken or come back having made a sacrifice to set them back financially. At the very least, when they leave office, they get jobs in rich law firms, or they become lobbyists when that time period for them to sit out and they can go back to Congress as a lobbyist, or their influence is just good even in the corporate world for various corporations. So it's political power. It's power. I know the song is in my head. Money and powder and power. No, we can't do that tonight. But the power, is it that great that we're willing to put the foundations of this nation at risk, or to forget about the divisiveness that we've had over the last couple of years, but to just say let's just have an schism, because it doesn't, schism, that's a new word, schism, because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter anymore what it's just about us getting in power. And I heard that all weekend long, all of the pundits and the commentators that have diagnosed that statement and have had different politicians and political consultants and so forth on, they've just asked them, are we beyond that, or are we kind of stuck now? Can we ever go back to civility, where we were Americans and not partisans first? And certainly, even as the two-party system, that we saw the common good and there was decency that said we can't go back where there's indignity to another human or another race of humans, and to put them at odds, and to look for whatever gains that they're over. I want to get your feelings. Hot Button Monday. Hit us up on the screen. Let us know how you feel. The show is not meant to be divisive. We want to encourage. Uh, we want to encourage productive dialogue. In a perfect world, we come out of a place, out of a conversation like this, having some solutions that we can offer to those in power to help us work past these problems that exist today. Now, speaking of what happened in Alabama this past weekend, um, there's several things. There's just I think when we talked about crossing the line as far as is race and um, misogyny and all of those things, not even caring anymore. Is there anything anymore? Is there any such thing as integrity anymore? Or does that even matter? Have we given up on integrity in our political process? I mean, nobody would call most politicians the most, that they're going to articulate 100% honesty. But to blatantly lie, the former president was quoted as telling 300,000 lies over the course of several weeks. I can't even think that a person talked that much. Well, that's what they said. That's what the statistics showed. Um, but now lies are just hanging in the balance. Now, can you prove lies? Some of the ones, well, I want to talk about one, and maybe I can't prove it. Certainly, someone has put forth evidence that would show that it was a lie. Herschel Walker. Wow, that guy's been a nemesis to me. I'm a Gator. He's a Bulldog. I remember him running 96 yards and pulling them out in the Georgia-Florida game there in the 80s, and buried our hopes. And my dear friend, the late friend, my friend Charlie Jones, made fun. He say, man, he was just a little kid yesterday. He's a freshman. And now he's running all up and down the field on almost grown men. But now, in a more serious matter, Herschel almost looks like uh, a sad, and because he's a brother, he's a human being. I hate to use the term, but almost a pathetic figure that has been put forth by the Republican Party to challenge Reverend Dr. Senator Raphael Warnock in Georgia for one of those senatorial seats. Remember, two seats changed hand. The former president was the Senate, president of the Senate at the time, Mitch McConnell, was very infuriated because he thought that the former president had directly changed the balance of power in the United States Senate, because his involvement in the Senate in the campaigns in Georgia automatically put Reverend Warnock and Wysock in office, a black and a Jewish brother in office, and defeated the incumbents. One case, both of them were incumbents. And in Dr. Warnock's case, he is he just had 2 years of a term, and now he's running for the full term. And by the way, that race against Herschel Walker, I understand if neither gets 51%, there's a runoff. They run again in 90 days or something to see if one can get the 51% threshold. I'll investigate and talk more about that. But let's talk about Herschel Walker. Whew. What a week he had. Herschel Walker. First of all, Herschel, I got to take a sip, guys. Thank you. Herschel was put forth by the twice impeached former president. He was put forth against the will of the traditional Republican Party, the Republican establishment in Georgia. And by the way, you see the delineation. The governor is winning pretty heavily. Well, he has a sizable lead over Stacey Abrams in the gubernatorial race, but in the Senate race, it's neck and neck with Dr. Warnock having a small lead, and so the Georgia voters are being very discriminating. I don't mean discriminating in a negative way. I mean they're very carefully choosing how they're voting, and they're not voting right down party lines or pulling the lever straight down the line. They, in fact, are making some choices in these upcoming races, and so Reverend Warnock, a successful, in fact, he pastors the church that Dr. Martin Luther King Sr. and Jr. pastored, the Ebenezer Baptist Church. We've been there several times in Atlanta, and Pastor Warnock is the incumbent senator. And what does the MAGA president do? He goes out and recruits a famous football player who happens to be black to put up against this black candidate to, I guess, hope that he can dilute some of the black vote for one thing, and maybe bring that Senate seat back over across the aisle to the Republican camp. Herschel Walker, the traditional Republican Party in Georgia and across the nation has Mitch McConnell has just come out and say that there are several unelectable candidates that have been put forth by the former president, and Herschel Walker would stand in that category. It's a formidable race. When I'm being told it, it's nick and tuck. Last week, it was revealed over a series of days that a young lady had, Herschel Walker has been a staunch anti-abortionist candidate who sees no provisions by which abortion in the cases of rape, incest, or children underage, or any of those factors would make a difference in his stance, that he has taken a staunch no abortion policy. And it was revealed by a young lady who allegedly had a romantic involvement with Herschel Walker, that he paid for her to abort one of their children. And she has put forth a receipt, and she has put forth a handwritten notice allegedly written by Herschel, a get well card on the other side of that procedure. And after several days and rounds of denials even to the point of saying that he doesn't even know who this person is or who the person is making the allegation, when it was revealed near the end of the week that it was in fact a young lady that Herschel Walker has a child from, and this child, this 10-year-old young man that he has from this young lady, she wanted him to abort. He wanted her to abort that baby. I mean, we have reached all kind of levels of hypocrisy the last several years in politics, from the President Obama putting forth Garland as Supreme Court, a legitimate Supreme Court nominee. Mitch McConnell, President of the Senate, failing to bring it up 8 months before the presidential election. Um, 8 months before the presidential election, and almost a year before the inauguration, saying that he would wait um, until the next president was selected. And that's a word to us. Be careful how you select your presidents. What we have seen happen is that in 4 years, the former president stacked and tilted. He didn't tilt it. He strongly reversed the court to a right-wing agenda. And you've seen some of the cases that have come down about that. So Herschel has, uh, who stands publicly against abortion, uh, but now he stands, who stands against abortion, but he stands to, he has allegedly paid for one of their children to be aborted, and uh, she has put forth a receipt, and I said she has put forth the receipt. I'm trying to put forth the receipt, and she has put forth a get well card allegedly written by him to on the other side of the procedure. And so it came out later in the week that this, in fact, was a young lady that in fact, he does share a child with. Now, with not only that, remember the Republicans are the party of family values. That's what that's what we endured all of the '80s. What was the guy contract Newt Gingrich and his crowd? My good friend, my guy that I model this show after, and model some of the work I do after, Joe Scarborough. All of those then Republicans. Uh, made the Republican Party the party of family values, but yet they have strongly endorsed Herschel Walker. Herschel Walker, who has four acknowledged children from four different ladies, and by all accounts, from the older children's statements, from the ladies, including this one, who made the comments, who made the revelations about the alleged payment for the abortion, they say he is not in any of his children's lives. In fact, last week when this whole story broke, one of his children went on, I think the social media platform was TikTok, and I saw parts of it where he strongly, and this young man is a staunch conservative, but he came out and spilled that his dad was the eternal hypocrite, because there is no relationship with any of those children, and he has was with not him or any of the children. He's one of the older children, and supposedly, allegedly, there are other children that Herschel has that are out there. This young lady who made these allegations says that he has done only what he has had to do as ordered by the court as far as a relationship, and that's basically taking care of his financial responsibilities to avoid being in trouble with the court. Now, Herschel has admitted that he's had some mental illness challenges. Um, he's allegedly put a gun to one of the young ladies' heads. He's threatened them. Herschel seems to have a flirtation with going over the line as far as integrity. He allegedly said he was an former FBI agent. Of course, that has proven to be untrue. Um, he said that he was a graduate of University of Georgia, where he started as a football player. That's untrue. Those are just some of the blatant, verifiable things. And so he finally, at the end of the week or over the weekend, acknowledged that he knew this young lady, but in the news reports, and my goodness, I wish we could show them, because there's something about humans that we can see when a person, we can just look at their reaction to a question and pretty much tell this ain't flying, bro. Nice try, but look like you on the downside on this one. Look like you're not being honest about this. So um, even if you see this later, just put some comments on about what you're thinking. Listen, I'm not here to down a brother. I'm really not. But don't let people make a puppet out of you. Don't let people prop you unintegral. Don't let them use you and make you where you have to be um, a person of non-integrity to meet their agenda or their objective, because really all they're doing is they're using you, they're abusing you. Um, you know they mean nothing for the race. They care nothing about you. You're just a symbol to get them. You are a number to get them where they need to meet their political objective. Heck, they maybe even primary you in 6 years if you got in office and got a more credible candidate. You have no credibility. That's Herschel Walker. I want to say something about Ukraine before we go to break. Um, as you know, I have some background noise up there. Um, we can do that in the studio here at the 3455. Uh, Putin, on his 70th birthday in 2018, rode across a bridge in Crimea, where annexed with Russia. That that was kind of like his pride and joy. He was even seen driving a real big truck. Thank you, Madam Producer. You own it, because goodness knows we hadn't talked about any of this stuff. And he rode that bus, that big truck, like a dump truck. He drove it, and he got out and symbolically waved and all of that stuff. Beautiful bridge that connects the two communities. In fact, it's the only connector that connects those areas. And it was blown. It was a part of it was blown up a few days ago, just prior to the weekend, and it was thought that Ukraine said that they did not do it, but Vladimir Putin did not think so. So last night there was a series of attacks in Ukraine, in all heavily populated civilian areas. I think 16 areas where a series of explosions, including the capital of Kiev of Ukraine, and people are back on alert just when they were getting some feeling of normalcy. That's why you can't listen to you. You got to always be on guard. And I don't know. Um, our president was brought into this a few days ago because Putin, after coming on the downside of this war and his people abandoning him, and literally in Russia, if you were a male that fit their criteria, they snatch you off the street and threw you in their version of basic training. They get you to try to make up the numbers they needed to have a fighting force. And it was some measure of celebration going on for the people of Ukraine across the world. It looked like at the very least they had stopped Russia from their invasion. And now Putin showed his power, and he even talked about in the height of his frustration for being on the downside of that war. He talked about not being afraid to use nuclear warfare. President Biden responded last week by saying that a nuclear war is no war. There is no winning a nuclear war. But then he came back at the end of the week, and people thought that he may have needed to be more careful with his words when he talked about um, we are as close to the brink of war than we were in 1960, well, not 1960, I think it was around 62, when President Kennedy, along with uh, President Nikita Khrushchev in Russia, were contemplating nuclear. There was a threat of nuclear war, and we had some dark days. I think it was 7 dark days when the world literally hang in the balance. Now we in the Christian community knows it didn't hang in the balance because the Master held it, and he kept it from happening. But that's what it looked like. So I just wanted to talk about that and say we got to pray for the people in Ukraine. Wish I could play the track, but everyone starts saying it like this: war. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing. He says it's only a place for the undertaker. War. We know that there will always be wars and rumors of wars, but we pray that this comes to a quick end, and the unmerciful invasion and the toppling, the attempted toppling of their sovereign government will soon come to a resolution, a peaceful resolution. We'll be right back. It's halftime on the dialogue. I'm gonna be monitoring your comments, and I'll respond back to them through the week. Um, dialogue with Dozell. Let's hear a word from our sponsor. Com. Listen, we don't have a formal shout out tonight, but we got an informal one, and it goes to the team, the Go Giga World, GoGigaWorldCreations.com. That's who we want to shout out tonight. Latoya, Markia, and team. We want to shout you out for the beautiful job that you do for us on Sunday mornings and on Monday nights with the dialogue, and for the many people that you make look good, for the professional production work that you do throughout the week for all of us. We say thank you, and we want to shout you out. Um, these are three young ladies that come together and uh, 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 have built a business around their collective talents. And man, let me tell you, sometimes I've been in some of the creative parts of these when we were in the heart of doing posters, and the dialogue got hot and heavy, man. But we shout you out because after making our point, we would draw and give we surrender to the professionals, because you guys make it happen. They do web posting, they do web designing. You saw some of the celebrities that they have produced. The pandemic may be over, but virtual world will be here to stay, and that's what they do. There's a program, they have a program that comes on Tuesdays, and it's called Soulful. I think they may have contemplated changing the name or something. And it's kind of like geared toward ladies. I think it comes on 4 o'clock on several virtual platforms. We just want to shout you out tonight and thank you for what you do for the dialogue and for New Life and for everybody. You make look good, Dr. Crab, the family. And I'm just going to go ahead and throw Coach in there. Miss Shay, you had us all going. We just want to say thank you all for what you do to make us look good in front of the world on our designated nights. So for the next few minutes, I want to talk about sports, and you feel free to kick in here, or again, you can respond later and we'll respond back. That's what we do. That's how we do it here. Before I get into the heart of sports, let's talk about Draymond. Those of you who know, Draymond Green is the heart and soul of the Golden State Warrior basketball team. Warriors, yeah, they won the championship again last year. That was their fourth over a span of about 6 years. And Draymond allegedly, and again, we can't show the video was just blasted, and you can see it on one of our platforms over YouTube. Um, Draymond punched Jordan Poole, and hearing about it did not do it justice. That was not a punch, man. That was a Muhammad Ali hit. Draymond apparently was on the bench, and they were. Let me use one of the old head terms. They were woofing at each other, woofing with each other, and Draymond popped up off the bench, and as he walked maybe 6 or 7 feet over to where Jordan was standing, and as he got there, Jordan like, get off me, pushed him like that, and Draymond reached back and cold cocked Jordan to the chin or somewhere. I really couldn't see, but it was not a love tap at all. It was a harsh lick, and the Warriors, and then somehow a video of that incident got out and was sold to TMZ, and TMZ made it available for the general public because that's what they do. That's how they make their money. And I don't know how that happened. I'm sure the Warriors got a real serious internal investigation. But internal is the operative word. They were wanting to keep that in house so that they could deal with it. As it turns out, Draymond has apologized for what he did, and he apologized not only to Jordan Poole, but he apologized to the team. And after apologizing to the team, um, he ended up taking some time off. And I'd like to hear what you think about that. I want to know what you think about that. Shannon Sharp said that he stole Jordan Poole, and I guess he did. He walked up on him with his hands down, and he just reached back and cold cocked him after he pushed him, kind of like, man, you got to get off me now. You gonna walk up on another man like that? Okay, so I can't talk like that. I got to talk peaceful. So I just want to hear what you think about that. And in sports, passions run real high, and words and deeds happen, and guys kind of get over that in the heat of passion. There's probably not an NFL game or a college game even that you don't see an athlete blowing up at the coach, particularly in the professional level. You see it more often than not, and then all of a sudden. There's that blow up, and then the next week is as if it never happened. So, uh, just want to hear what you think about what happened there out in San Francisco the other few days ago. Um, Also, an interesting situation happened with Alabama State University the other day, and I just finally got all the 411 on it. Deion Sanders, who is man, we shouted him out here in the dialogue a few weeks ago because he is doing an awesome job, and we are torn. Yes, we want to see him advance to maybe a Power Five school, but stick around HBCUs a few more years, man. You are doing an awesome job in bringing recognition to HBCUs. Recruiting is up. The quality of athletes are up. Athletes are transferring from Power Five schools, not because of a lack of playing time, but because they're getting a chance to play for a school that was known in their neighborhood or in their state or in their region, and you have made it cool. But Dion, I guess the background of the story is that he took offense to Alabama State uh, scheduling them for their homecoming. Like, the nerve of you. You gonna schedule us for your homecoming? So in the pregame, he and the Alabama State coach, there was little or no interaction. So after the game, I guess um, they went to have the conventional handshake, and Dion must have reached to give him a bro hug, and the coach, if I'm not mistaken, that coach's name is well, I don't want to butcher it up. He pushed him off, not a forceful push, but kind of a like, man, no, it ain't about that. I saw the news conference where he talked about Dion's not good for HBCUs and for the SWAC. He said, you're not SWAC. About 6 or 7 times, Dion in typical prime, Coach Prime now fashion. He said, "If I ain't swag, who is swag?" He said it back to back to back to back to back to back to back. If I ain't swag, who is swag? Swag being the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and and the band played on. So these kinds of things bring publicity. Uh, Dion he's never one to really shy from a camera, but you've seen a more calculated, a more focused Dion who's trying to bring attention to the cause and to these kids and to HBCUs. Uh, Dion is from Jackson State University, and they're like number one, and his son Shakur is like lighting it up. He's like a black college version of Tom Brady nowadays. He's being compared to, and I think there's something like 5 or 6-0. They demolished FAMU in the season opener down here, and they're just hats off. And guys, keep it positive. Keep it working for the greater good. Okay, we're relenting. Let you guys handle that, but just keep it working for the greater good. Now, I was hoping to have some Jaguar fans on here tonight. It would have been great for my brother to be here because I guess yesterday. The Jaguars just kind of had a tough time. I think one of the things that people just thought that just because Houston came to town, that was a automatic victory for the Jaguars. And I'm thinking to myself, who has elevated the Jaguars to that status that even you can make an automatic victory to Houston? Yeah, they've had some good victories. They've played some close games. Even the first game that they had lost to Washington was a close game. And so I guess it was just it was a surprise. And I guess Trevor had a tough game yesterday, and he had a chance to bring the team back. And apparently, he threw the game-ending interception. Um, but I saw that kid. I saw that kid play at Clemson, and I think once he gets he has a great coach behind him, Doug Peterson. Now, I think once he gets the proper, he gets the offensive line, the full offensive line, and a full array of weapons. And I'm learning this is the time to do it while that quarterback is on their rookie contract. You better load them up with weapons because if you maintain them, then you got to pay that quarterback, and you're going to have a hard time keeping these guys under the cap space. But I still believe in you, Trevor. No matter how you look yesterday, uh, let's go back and look at Peyton the first couple of years until we got a team and got a structure around him, a coach, a staff, and everything. Hang in there, Jags. It's going to get better. Meanwhile, sunny South Florida, the Dolphins went up and lost to the dreaded Gang Green Jett Jets, whatever their saying is. Lost to them. They went into the game with Tua out. We talked about him. And shout out to Daryl, who was with us last week. Man, you're just awesome. You brought it. We had technical difficulties, but your content was strong enough to kind of bring us through that last week. Thanks, dear. We talked a little bit earlier tonight, but Tua is out, and thanks because of Tua. We don't know what his status is going to be for the duration of the year, but we do know now that. Concussion protocol is going to be stepped up. It's not going to be played with. It's not going to be patsied around. It's not about trying to get a player back on the field right away. Now it's going to be looking out for that player's health at all costs. And so, what happens on the first play of the game, the first play of the Dolphins' offensive series? Teddy Bridgewater, his replacement, went down with an elbow injury and possible concussion. Teddy's history is that last year with the Broncos, he had 2 concussions. Once you get into that situation where you're having a history of concussions, uh, it kind of comes down to where you have to kind of make some reevaluate your playing career. And some are saying, and I don't want to put that on him, but some are saying that may be the situation with Tua now because many people are convinced that he had 2 concussions over a 4-day span 2 weeks ago. So um, Jaguars, you'll be back. Dolphins, you lost, but you put up a valiant effort for at least a half and maybe 3 quarters yesterday after losing your left tackle, your backup, your second string quarterback. You played with the third string quarterback. You, hey Phyllis, how you doing, sis? Um, you hung in there. Hey Phyllis, shout out to how about them Cowboys? The boys went out to LA to SoFi and beat the Rams. Now you got to tell me, was that the Cowboys looking like world beaters, or was that because the Rams' offense is struggling? They don't have a running attack that I couldn't stop right now. But anyway, yeah, go Cowboys. I uh I had the opportunity a few weeks ago to preach for a gentleman in Pensacola, Pasadena, who actually played with Bob Hayes, and that's why a generation of folk in Jacksonville and Florida became serious cowboy fans because Bob Hayes, of course, played with them in the 60s and early 70s. And he was a Gilbert High School product. Yeah, Gilbert Panthers. Yeah, orange and green. And went on, stayed in that orange and green and played at FAMU under legendary coach Jake Gaither. and Pastor Demps played with that team. Palatka Red, Knox, Charles Sutton, all of that group that I used to hear Mr. Sutton talk about. Mr. Sutton went out there with them, and he had a physical issue, and his career ended on the examination table at the Cowboys stadium. But he came back and he worked for my dad, hired him at the boys' parental home there, and he would hold court with the boys and talk about all those good old days at FAM and his brief career in Dallas with the Cowboys, and a lot of the stuff that he talked about and the people he mentioned, Pastor Demps and Pastor Demps was able to relate to when I was with him a few weeks ago in Northwest Florida. What a great time we had. Yeah, the boys look good, Phyllis. I got to give it to them. They look real good. Listen, I want to talk about what are the favorite teams? Well, you got to talk about the boys now, but the boys play in that vaunted. It used to be called just a year or two ago. You could hear Skip Bayless referring to it as the NFC least instead of the NFC East. And now you got three powerhouse teams out of there. The boys, the Eagles, who are the only undefeated team in the NFL, and the Giants, whose only loss was to the boys. The NFC East is a strong conference now. And though the Commanders, the former Washington football team, though their record doesn't indicate it, they've been playing a pretty tough brand of ball themselves. So you'll see these teams beat on each other, and we'll see how many of them come out to be in the playoffs, and if any of them even make it to the Super Bowl. Wow! But for right now, yeah. How about them Cowboys? You know what Jerry Jones would say? How about them Cowboys? So the boys are looking good. The Giants looking good. The Eagles are looking good. Let's see who out west. Frisco, I understand, had a ton load of injuries to their defense. That defense is looking good out there. The offense does just enough to be successful. Jimmy Garoppolo he's a pro. As long as he can stop from making interceptions, that offense is pretty decent out there. So you got that team, and then you have we don't know what's going on with the Packers right now. They lost to the Eagles, and they lost to the Giants yesterday over in London. And people are wondering what's going on with Aaron Rodgers and the team. Well, they lost most of their receivers. One of them playing right now with Oakland. So the NFL East is going to be quite a division. So the East is the Cowboys, Giants, and Eagles. The Central is Green Bay and the Vikings. The Vikings are 4-1. 4-1. Yeah, they're 4-1. I don't know if they beat the tougher teams yet, but they're 4-1. And then the West, which was supposed to be that was the AFC West, but the NFC West with the Niners, the Seahawks, and the Seahawks playing amazing football, even though they lost a close one yesterday. They're playing amazing ball. That's not going to be one of your stronger conferences right now. So I left out the North. The Central is so who is I know in Pittsburgh and that group makes up the Central and the AFC. The NFC, sis, give me a hand. Who comprises the NFC Central? That's wow. Brain paused on me for a second because in the East. So anyway, they must not be too tough because we're not hearing a whole lot about them, and they're not raising that much saying that they're in the news as being big teams. And of course, over in the American Conference, the AFC West was supposed to be this dynamo of a conference with all these quarterbacks, Russell Westbrook and Russell Wilson. I'm sorry, crossing up sports. Russell Wilson with Denver. Let's see, the kid out there with San Diego, he pulled them out of they came back and won an amazing victory yesterday at Cleveland, an entertaining game, according to what side of the line of scrimmage you were on. And they're kind of beating up on each other, and right now that that's going to have to work itself out. But right now, it looks like the NFC East is the strongest conference and has some of the greater chances. Well, how can you forget about the the Bills? The Bills, they put a can of whip butt on my beloved Steelers yesterday that I won't forget for a while. Mike Tomlin might be this may be his first losing season. We'll see if they're able to figure that thing out and at least avoid a losing season. That's a team that's really in rebuild mode, and especially without their defensive star being down for the year. Uh, we got a ways. It's a long season. Injuries dictate everything. Last week, the Niners looked like world beaters, and now they look like a mash unit. And so we'll see how long that plays out, and see how much damage that does to their record. Dak Prescott went down the first game, and they going undefeated while he's out. That's going to cause some interesting dynamics next week when they play the hated Eagles. That's what y'all call them, right, Phyllis? The Eagles, yeah. Yeah, I got the East. It's the Central, the NFC Central that I'm having a hard time trying to pull up. So the North is okay. Well, I'm not going to spend a lot of time here with it. I want to transition over to basketball. I was looking at some pre-assessment, some pre-game prognosis, and a preseason prognosis. That season is just about to kick off, and a lot of people are saying, "Man, Paul George and the Clip Joint, the Los Angeles Clippers, is going to be a team to be reckoned with." I understand they have untold depth, and they've been trying to be the team that really rules LA, and they've been trying to get past LeBron and uh, AD and all of that group out there. And they were injury riddled last year. Kawhi was out with a torn ACL, and uh, 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 oh my goodness, the tall guy that was with the I'm looking the Indianapolis Pacers. Paul George, um, he set out the bottom third of the year last year, and they're all back, and they look like they're in it to win it. So we'll see what they do to my beloved Warriors now. And we hadn't begun to talk about what happened to Emi Udoka there with the situation with Boston. Let's just leave that. Let's let that sit on the shelf and see how that plays out. A lot of stuff is still coming out about that. Um, well, the NBA is on us. The NHL, which you're probably not going to hear your boy talk too much about the NHL, but the NBA is on us. They'll be starting about, I think next week is the start of the season. The beloved Heat is playing the Rockets tonight. And hey, if you're an NBA fan, it's a great time of year. You got some good NFL to watch, some great NBA. If you're a sports fan, it's a nice time to have your eyes open and be breathing. Listen, get ready to leave you. We are so glad that you signed tonight. Phyllis, thank you tonight for signing in and giving us some chat. And go boys. How about them Cowboys? That's what we'll be saying. And we'll be pulling them boys through. I've been a silent Cowboy fan. I've been liking some of your posts when you and others been talking about them. Simply because of the old days. I grew up on that east side, the boys' home, and Mr. Sutton talked about them, and Knox just left us a few months ago, Mr. Sutton, and staunch friend of Bob Hayes. When I'm in town, I go by that Bob Hayes Stadium the Bob Hayes Monument down at the foot of A. Philip Randolph uh, Avenue, which was formerly Florida Avenue, and it's just good to see the boys get back up again and see them come back on top. Ezekiel Elliott, are you kidding me? What is this guy? Is he on some kind of slim fast? Wow. He has lost so much weight. I just wonder how effective he can be. But they sure look good yesterday, Phyllis. They ran right at Aaron Donald and them in that second half. I think they kind of wore them down. And with them being on the field so long because they couldn't move the ball to get sustained long drives, that's what happens to a defense. They wear down. Listen, tonight we were supposed to talk about our Florida statewide elected officials, the big three, the governor, and the two senators. We're just going to save that possibly the week, not the night before, but the week before the election, and get you to sign in and tell us what you think about Rick Scott, Marco Rubio, and DeSantis. Okay, we want to evaluate them as we get ready to approach election season. For all of you who are watching us live, for all of you who will watch us, and for all of you who talk about us and give us pats on the back, whether they're virtual or phone calls or whatever, we thank you. We're committed to being here because that Go Giga team has given us all of the rationale and reason in the world. I won't talk about it right now. We'll talk about it some other time. But they have given us impetus, a shot in the arm to stay here. Hope to have Kim. I think he's probably going to be on assignment next week, but hope to have him here in the upcoming weeks. Dialogue with Dozell. We love you. We still got to do that cruise show. We got a great entertainer. I keep talking about him. Leo, man, he is just awesome. He's going to be on, and we're going to have a lady who takes a cruise every month. She takes a week cruise. Dialogue with Dozell. We love you. GoGigaCreations.com. Take us out of here. Let the people see what you do again. We love you. God bless you.